Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now, 865-243-TALK. That's 243-8255. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Yes, one of us is going down. It is either these increasingly irritating intrusions on our freedom and liberty by this overbearing government, or it is this radio show. And as the song says, you would be wise to put your money on this radio show. You see, I'm an American, and I'll fight to my last breath to free this country from the tyranny that is being imposed upon it. I mean, after all, did George Washington give up? Did Thomas Jefferson give up? Oh, I didn't get a no from Tori on that. Did James Madison give up? Yeah. Well, neither am I, and neither should you. Joining us in our Never Say Die attitude is the radio station broadcasting far and wide our message of liberty. It is the station flying the battle flag for the Patrick Riggins Show, 100.3 WNOX, pumping out 100,000 watts of atmosphere-rattling power and rocking seismometers in parts of 5 states and 2 time zones. We have even established a beachhead on the internet. All you need to do is bring up your web browser and type in www.wnoxfm.com. There, not only do you get to listen to this show being broadcast no matter where you are in the world, you also get to watch it, courtesy of the in-studio webcam. That address again is wnoxfm.com. Manning the console to my left, to your right, if you're watching online, is our show producer, Tori.
Hello.
So we were talking a little bit about, before the show started, how'd the gig go Wednesday night?
Gig went very well with Reverend Horton Heat. I want to say thank you to everybody at the Square Room for having us out there and everybody who came and saw us. And Reverend Horton Heat, everything was great. That was one of the best shows I've ever had in my career.
And is the room actually square?
Yes.
It is?
It is square. It's a nice stage. It's a great place to go see an act.
Had a lot of. I saw some of the pictures on Facebook of that. Some of them are quite interesting.
What?
You had one taken from the stage, and the people in the audience were
telling me I was number one.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know if they were doing sign language or telling you you're number one.
I took that right after we got done playing, and yeah, there's one guy, nice gentleman, telling me I was number one.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny.
George Corda.
Yeah. He forgets something every week.
Hey, George. Yeah.
Yes. What did you remember?
The only problem with my short-term memory.
What was that again?
I don't remember. But thank you and goodbye.
Have a Merry Christmas, George.
I remember how to make it back to my car.
Yeah, it's the one parked right out. It's the limo parked out front.
That's a little inside joke. Of course, anybody who listens knows that George has the show right before this one, and he always ends up leaving something behind here at the station. Always turns around about 20 minutes after he leaves and comes back.
Even something that you said don't forget on the way out the studio.
Before he walked out.
Yes.
Don't forget that, George. Bye.
See ya. All right.
What are we talking about?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, the show. Thank you once again, everybody, for coming out. And Reverend Horton Heat was awesome. So, thank you.
Great. So be sure and watch Tori in the 2013 when they start really hitting it big.
The world tour, yeah.
Yeah, the world tour, yeah.
The world tour of South Knoxville.
Well, that is your world, I guess.
That is my world, and I love it.
All right. Thanks again for listening this week. You are part of an ever-increasing number of people who are determined to do something to reclaim our country, reclaim our freedom and liberty that has been slowly but surely taken from us over the years. Not all at once, because it never worked doing it that way, but slowly, in the name of war, in the name of security, in the name of helping others. All of these are merely disguises for sapping away the very thing that makes you human. Your freedom to do as you wish, as long as you aren't hurting someone else, nor encroaching on their freedom. You may ask, hey, Patrick, why would government want to do that?
Hey, Patrick, why would government want to do that?
Yes. It isn't necessarily what government sets out to do, but it always ends up doing it. And our founders were smart enough to know this is what would happen if government is left unchecked. We, as the people in charge, are supposed to be providing that oversight, but we aren't. We are asleep on the job. And our employees, the people in government who work for us, that makes them our employees, they are stealing from us and selling us down the river. Why do you think our founders drew up a constitution? Have you ever really put any thought into that? I know the school system doesn't teach you to think, to ask questions. All it teaches you is to accept and do as you're told. Think about it. All during school, how many teachers would encourage you to question what you were reading and what you were learning? I would hazard a guess that it was very, very few of them, maybe only one or two during the whole school career. You were taught to accept and believe what so-called experts told you. Even today on television, they bring in, quote, experts to tell you what to think about an issue or how you should feel or react to something in the news. You see, the media not only wants to tell you what should be important to you, but what you should think and feel about it as well. But back to my question, why did our founders draw up a constitution? I don't need a constitution with my neighbor. We don't steal from each other. We don't try and restrict each other's speech. We don't try to confiscate each other's guns. We don't peek into each other's windows to see what the other is up to. The reason we have a constitution is people are nice and courteous until they are part of a crowd. Now, the founders knew this, and they knew this same crowd psychology would prevail when people got into government, because this same anonymous, unrestricted behavior would manifest itself tenfold in a bureaucracy if allowed. That government would, by nature, become an increasing leviathan that intrudes into the lives of its citizens more and more. You know, I've said this on this show before. The freedom equation is more government equals less freedom for the citizens. And the government side of the equation has grown much too large. All right, we're up on the first break here on the Patrick Riggins Show. Always flies by. When we come back, we'll be talking about, what do we have here? We'll review a little bit from last week, and we'll talk a little bit about this whole debate going on about guns in America. So, anyway, this is Patrick Riggins. We'll be back after this first segment of messages.
Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
This is the Patrick Riggins Show, one of the fastest growing shows on the radio. Each week, I am generating more excitement than, I don't know, Justin Bieber at an all-girls school. Tori not impressed with that analogy. All right. What I want to do is something I've never, ever done on this show before, so you can mark this down. What is today, the 23rd? December 23rd, Patrick is doing this. No, it's not take a call. I've done that before. Yes. I would like to start this segment with an apology. Yes, and there aren't many times I have to do this, but frankly, it's because I'm usually correct in my ideas and logical in my thinking. I speak my mind and tell my listeners the truth, and all of it's sometimes ugliness, but occasionally I get the odd email or letter pointing out something I did on my show which might have caused someone a problem. Now, normally I chalk it up to them being oversensitive to a point I'm making, or not being able and ready to hear the truth spoken as directly as it is here on this show. But this time, I'm afraid they may have a point. Having said all this, I'd like to play a clip that generated the call from my show last week. Just look at Boehner. Look at how he acts. Let's just call him what he is. He's a pansy. And if you elect a pansy to represent your organization, to speak for you, then people are going to think your organization is full of pansies as well. Yes. You heard correctly. I called the Congressional Speaker of the House, John Boehner, a pansy. I had a good reason. It is because he lacks the backbone to stand up for this country and the Constitution. Now, this week, I received some letters complaining about it, and after reading them, they have convinced me, well, they have a valid point. Who I was contacted by was the National Pansy Growers Association of North America, and they noted they did not appreciate me associating the name of a flower upon which their livelihoods depend with the kind of person John Boehner is, a spineless wimp. So after receiving this stinging rebuke, I have made the radio show host executive decision to no longer refer to House Speaker John Boehner as a pansy. From now on, I shall refer to him as a coward, or a sissy, a weakling, a sellout, a pushover, or even a gutless wonder. But no longer shall I, Patrick Riggins, on this show, refer to the Speaker of the House, John Boehner, as a pansy, for fear of throwing more gas on the fire with the National Pansy Growers Association of America. So there you go. Okay, so now the cards and letters can stop coming from all the people who love pansies and love growing them. And speaking of emails and letters, I also had some notes sent in this week stating I was being too tough on Obama for supposedly crying at his press conference, for showing all this emotion. Now, first off, to be truthful, I wasn't getting on Obama for wiping a tear from his eye during the press conference. It was the fact that it was clearly faked for the media. It was all a production to make Obama seem, gee, he feels for these people who were killed. Let me tell you what it used to be a man in America, what that used to mean. What you did, you compartmentalized your life. Yes, something may be happening in your personal life, or something maybe go bad in one part, but you isolated that and did your job. No matter what was going on at home, no matter what was going on in life, you didn't let your emotions rule you, because you were a man. You were expected to stand strong. You were expected to be logical and thinking in times of a stressful situation. When you react emotionally, you are usually reacting the wrong way. You are the type of person who is going to panic in times of stress, when the crap is hitting the fan, so to speak. That isn't what is needed in times of stress and problems. What you need is true, logical, thinking leadership. A true man to step forward and do the things that need to be done. He puts his emotions in check and does what needs to be done. But society has been trying to evolve, I guess, for lack of a better word, evolve that out of men. I have seen it happening over my short lifetime. I've seen men go from being strong and secure to worrying about what people think about them, worrying about what their hair looks like, to remembering to cry and show emotion so people will think them evolved. They are today's man, so to speak. Now, if you aren't that way, you are told you're cold-hearted. You have no feelings, but you really do. You just know how to isolate them so they don't influence your decisions in a negative and irrational way. You don't take the easy route. You make the hard decisions, even if they don't make you popular. And because you want to be accepted, it's because it is the right thing to do, the correct way to act. I'm sorry life has become this way. I think it has come about because we aren't raising a nation of men anymore. Part of it may be the alarming number of single female parent households in America. I don't know. I touched on that point in my last show. It seems we're raising a nation of wusses, as I addressed with my example of the huge coward John Boehner is. He has no backbone. He won't stand for anything. And that's part of the problem in America today. We don't have enough men anymore. We have people who are flexible in their principles, who will sell out their fellow citizens at the drop of a hat, because what people think of them has become more important than what they stand for. A good example is all this hysteria and piling on after the shooting last week in Newtown. I was driving this last Friday and heard a radio station having a minute of silence for the shooting victims in Connecticut. They were also calling for all other radio stations to do the same. I even had people ask me if I was going to have a minute of silence on my radio show. Well, no, I'm not having a minute of silence. For one, that would deprive my audience of my opinion for a whole 60 seconds. They don't want that. Oh. They want to know what I think about the issues, what's going on today, and me being quiet does nothing to help that. And what good does it do anyway? Me being quiet a minute doesn't do anyone in Newtown any good at all. Well, Patrick, you may say, it shows respect. No, it doesn't. It shows you I engage in frivolous outward appearance activities that do nothing to help anyone. A moment of silence is just a ritual. Look at me. Look how sympathetic I am. Look how much I care. That does nothing for those people up there. Nothing. All it is for your own gratification. And I would argue glorification for yourself. Think about the next time you participate in these shallow and artificial activities. Think about how everyone makes fun of how crude and ignorant these early people were who worshiped the sun. Or even the Mayans, having made it through last Friday. The barbaric rituals they did, and how we think it is amazing they believe that by doing these things, they could influence anything at all. And yet we do them to this day. They thought engaging in rituals would help their harvest, would bring rain, would bring good fortune, when they had nothing to do with it. Yet we have moments of silence for what? To honor those dead. Because they were gunned down in a school? What does that say about all the other children, and humans for that matter, who are killed every day, every hour, in horrific ways, all around the world? Are they not important enough? Or are they just the wrong color? Oh, you didn't want to hear that. Okay, well, how about the wrong culture? Oh, I don't want to hear that either. It's the truth. And as regular listeners of this radio show know, that is what you get here, the truth, in all of its ugliness, because ugly truth is still prettier than the most beautiful lie. What superficial rituals really point out is your lack of feeling and sympathy for others who are dying around the world every day. All because this shooting has been played up in the media. And you want to be seen as good and moral, as caring, because you are participating in whatever the media tells you to do. You're becoming a puppet of circumstance. The media pulls your strings, and you dance to the tune they're playing. The politicians see this and know exactly what to do to get you to sit up and beg. There you go, good doggy. Now here's your dog biscuit, and vote me back into office, and maybe you'll get another one. How many murders have we had in the world since the shooting in Connecticut? How many people have had their lives snuffed out for no reason at all, and in ways much worse than being shot? And they don't get a moment of silence. They don't get anything, because no one can promote an agenda off their corpses. Are you tired of this yet? Or the goofing around, how everything is politics, how every situation that occurs, how every tragedy that happens is played for political gain? The reason this occurs is because there's so much at stake. Why do you think drug dealers fight so hard for their turf, their piece of the neighborhood? Because there's so much money involved. Same thing in Washington. There's so much money involved, and money brings influence and power. It is corrupting everyone who goes up there, except for a few standouts in Congress. And why do companies spend so much money on lobbyists? If the power were as it was supposed to be, as laid out in the Constitution, with the federal government having the least power, then the states, and then the people having the most, there would be no reason for all this political maneuvering, because there would not be enough in Washington to gain. We have become upside down in this nation. The people are on the bottom, and Washington, D.C. is on the top. We simply have to correct this if we are to survive as a nation. Why do you think we stand out in history? Why have we come farther, faster than any nation on this earth ever has? Why is that? It's freedom, plain and simple. It is up to us to get it back before it, frankly, forever escapes our grasp. All right, we're on the bottom of the hour break here on the Patrick Riggins Show. We'll have more fun and excitement coming up in the second half of this show. We have a couple of messages, and usually this break, bottom of the hour break's what, Tori? About 2 minutes? So there you go. He can't speak. He can just shake his head.
Yes.
There we go.
2.5. Maybe 3. Could be 4. Definitely more than 1.
Yeah.
But less than 10.
Oh, yes.
What are we talking
We're getting
about?
into the holy hand grenade now.
What are we talking about?
This is Patrick Riggins. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
This is the Patrick Riggins Show. Listening to a little Diana Ross there. Yes, someday we will be together. We will be together. Sometimes it just takes patience, but someday we will pull together as a country and kick these closet socialists out of office. To be honest, though, a lot of them aren't in the closet. They're out-and-out socialists, man, fascists. All you have to do is look at their actions. They'll betray the words of a politician every time. Now, before we get started in this segment of the show, and we got a couple of callers we'll try to get to here, I want to take a minute and real quick talk about something that's near and dear to me, and that's charities. Now, this time of year, we start hearing a lot of them advertising on the radio and TV, and they'll be sending us stuff in the mail, all in an effort to remind you during this holiday season about those less fortunate than you, and also to make you feel a little bad about having so much, so you'll be sure and send something to the charity to make yourself feel maybe a little less guilty. I would argue if that is why you're sending a donation, though, then don't do it. You aren't giving with the right attitude and heart. But if you are giving money or any type of donation because you truly want to help people, then by all means get to it. Private charities do things so much more efficiently than government. And if we can get government out of the charity business, we'll be that much closer to how this government is country is meant to be run. Back to these charities, though. When you select one, smacking the microphone there. Yeah.
There's a mic in front of your face.
Yeah, it's the end of the year. I can do that. Anyway, when you select one or two or, maybe a few to which you'd like to give a donation, here's a little quick hint to make sure they are going to use your money wisely. What you want to do is go to one of the charity rating sites on the internet, or you can call the charity itself and ask them for a copy of their IRS Form 990. Now, that is a form most nonprofits have to file with the IRS, telling about their operations and what they are doing and how much they are taking in donations each year. So when you get this form, and you can find it, as I said, on the internet, or nonprofits have to give you a copy if you request it, you want to go and look at pages 7 and 8. Now, this is Roman numeral 7 of the form. If you are in a public school and you aren't familiar with Roman numeral 7, it's a V with 2 I's after it. But just look for pages 7 and 8. Now, this part is entitled Compensation of Officers, Directors, Trustees, Key Employees, Highest Compensated Employees, and Independent Contractors. Now, if you'll look down this form and note how much money is being paid to the executive director and any other staff members listed, you can find out how much salary this person is receiving working for that nonprofit. Looking at this, and keep in mind the mean income, meaning the average, per person in Knox County is around $35,500. And if you want, you can even take the median income. That's the income level where there are just as many people above that number making this money as below it. That number is around $45,400. So if you're looking at a charity and its staff are being paid huge amounts of money as compared to those numbers, and quite a few of them are, then you might want to look around and put your money into another charity. You see, in the private sector, you should make as much money as you can. you should bargain and get the best deal for yourself when negotiating your salary. But when you take a job in the nonprofit sector, the unspoken agreement is you aren't going to get paid as well as you could in the private sector. The idea being, the more money you make, the more money you take away from the people who you are supposed to be trying to help. At least that's how it used to be if you took a job working for a charity. You weren't there to see how much you could make. You were there to see how much you could help. The salary was pretty much a secondary consideration. But increasingly, and you'll see this if you look over a few nonprofits, Form 990, the goal seems to be getting as much money for yourself as you can. The mission for the charity becomes the secondary consideration behind your salary. This also used to be the unspoken deal, to relate this back to the show, when you went into a government job. It didn't pay as well as a private sector job because it was public service. You were there because you wanted to help the public, to help serve them. That was the primary consideration. Again, the secondary consideration was your salary. But today, now the goal seems to be is to get as high a salary as you can. And who cares if you're squandering the taxpayers' money? Their primary consideration now is their salary, and helping the public just falls way down that ladder. The problem is I've described on this show over and over, and I mentioned it in the first segment, there's too much money sloshing around in government. The rewards are too high, and the accountability is too low. It is too easy to rip off the taxpayer and get away with it because the government is too big. Where do you think all this lost money goes in government? All those stories about how a few million here or a few million there, they can't find it. They don't know where it went. Well, personally, I have a sneaking suspicion it's in someone's Swiss bank account or Cayman Islands account. And you may ask, why would someone do that? Steal money from the taxpayer? Well, because they can. That's why. If you have a few $1,000,000 sitting in a room, and if you put it in your anonymous account, and no one is going to find out, and furthermore, no one is really going to care, how hard would it be to resist doing it? Only someone thoroughly grounded in their principles is going to be able to resist that temptation. And there aren't a whole lot of those type of people serving in our government positions. But anyway, getting back to giving to charities, get to this real quick. I used to have a show on this radio station where we highlighted various small charities that didn't get a lot of publicity on their own. Either too small, or the people are too busy, or they didn't have a budget to buy commercials or send out fundraising letters. These are the type of charities I would encourage you to give to this holiday season. The big guys have enough money. The little guys sure could use your help, though. And if you can't afford to give money, then give a little of your time. The people you meet and the feeling you get from actually having made a difference in someone's life is immeasurable. Plus, you'll have a lot of fun in the process. So this holiday season, and especially coming up on the end of the year when you might be looking to make some charitable donations, be sure and check that IRS Form 990 and do a little research before sending your money. Again, if you want a copy of that, you can call the charity and have them fax it, and a lot of them can email it to you now. Or you can find them on the web. If they're a little hesitant to send you a copy of that, then that should kind of be a red flag right there. But when you do that, you'll be making sure every dollar you send is used in the best way possible. I feel pretty strongly about some of these organizations paying their staffs huge sums of money when it could be better spent helping the people they are supposed to be helping. You know, the donors don't send in money so the staff can party and pay themselves a nice salary. The donors send that money in to further the mission of the charity. So that's what it should be doing. Again, I apologize. We've run up on the break here, but that's just something that's kind of dear to my heart about as far as private charities and really investigating to be sure they're using the money in the way that they should be. We're up on the last break. This is Patrick Riggins with the Patrick Riggins Show. We'll jump through this break and get back and get to two more things before we end the show. We'll see you in a little bit.
Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Welcome back to the Patrick Riggins Show. What is that, Tori? Father Christmas?
Father Christmas by the Kinks.
By the Kinks, yeah.
That's my kind of Christmas music.
Yeah, Tori playing a little Christmas music to get you in the mood.
either this or Cheech and Chong.
Cheech and Chong, yeah. That thing is like 5 minutes, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a long one.
Or the McKenzie brothers.
Or the McKenzie brothers. That would be good. We'd probably have to pre-listen to all of that.
Take off, eh?
Yeah, take off. All right, welcome back to the Patrick Riggins Show. Already in the last segment of the show, and I'm going to try and cram in as much as I can before we run out of time. Real quickly, when the last shootings in Colorado and New Jersey occurred, I talked about how we were promoting this type of behavior through news coverage, and did we really need to know about it? With all the new listeners to this show each week, I want to take the opportunity to mention it again in the light of this most recent shooting in Connecticut. If you want to listen to the whole segment of that show, or even the whole show, it is on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Patrick Riggins Show. And the show was on August 26th broadcast, and the segments were called appropriately enough, Media Over Reporting. Good stuff, if I must say so myself. But you can go to that youtube.com/Patrick Riggins Show, scroll down, and you'll see that August 26th show. I can enunciate that. I want to start off real quick with a question. What does showing the news story about the shooting in Connecticut do for your life? As I talked about before, it's been shown where making a spectacle out of these events only serves to encourage them. So again, I ask, how did it help you to know about it? Or let me ask it this another way. How is your life different now than it was the Thursday before the shooting? Now, if nothing is different, then again, why do you need to know about it? Why do we need to report on it? Well, you say because it's news. So someone dying is news? There are people dying every day that you have never heard about. Well, Patrick, these are children. Again, there are children dying every day all around the world. Are they any less significant or important than these children in Connecticut? Well, it was the way in which they died. It was horrific. Again, there are children dying all around the world in horrific ways much worse than being shot to death. There have been children killed by being stabbed to death, strangled, starved, which in that case is death strung out over years. Again, what has changed in your life since the shooting? Well, you say, it makes me appreciate my family and children more. To that, I'd say, you need someone to die to cause that? If that's the case, you have more problems than a lack of outward appreciation for the ones you love. I'll ask again, what has changed in your life as a cause of this shooting? If you had not been told about it, how would your life be any different than it is now? If you know someone from that school, I'm sure you would be getting a phone call at some point. And wouldn't you rather hear the news from someone you know than off the television? So, by covering these stories, are we not encouraging the next nut to do it again? Everyone wants to ask why this is happening more and more. Part of the reason is because we have a 24-hour news cycle, and they have to talk about something. The other part of the problem is doping up our children on these heavy drugs with bad side effects, but we'll talk about that on another show. Just look at this one story I pulled off the internet this week. A Bayshore teenager, and that's in Long Island, New York, created a Facebook page using the name of a girl in his class. He then posted a threat about committing a shooting at their school on December 19th. The shooter I talked about in that show in August, he wrote a quote. He wrote, and what he said, the quote was, "I'm starting to see why people go on killing sprees," unquote. I guess he just came up with that with no influence from the sensationalizing of the other shootings that had occurred. Now, the news media is not going to point the finger at themselves. No, they're not responsible for causing this. It is the fact that mental health is not funded enough by the state, that guns are too easy to get, that we aren't evaluating and labeling kids at an early enough age. We have these video games that glorify killing. Well, isn't the media and the news media just about doing the same thing? Look, even some nut phoned in a bomb threat to the prayer vigil for these children in Connecticut. Now, why did they do that? Because they knew it would get lots of attention. Why do we have all these bomb threats that were phoned into courthouses across the state a month ago? Because they knew it would generate a buzz in the media.
Which ended up being totally nothing.
Totally nothing, exactly.
I think it was a stolen phone. Somebody had found a phone and was driving all the way around. Actually, we were kind of pulled into that, and it's sort of a way I guess they were driving past my father's property in Seymour,
really?
and the phone signal pinged off of the tower, so he got called in. It's like, well, we've got, yeah. So of course everything's fine, but yeah, it's just.
So he was a victim of
sort of, if you want to call it that. Yeah. It definitely inconvenienced him.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it casts dispersion on him. So yeah, that they did that because it would generate a buzz, and the media would talk about it in that evening and the next day on the news, and they did. So the stunt was successful. But the media will never blame itself. It's always our fault. Some will tell me that this is news and that's why people want to know about it. Well, what's news? Is news something that will help you in your daily life? Is news something that doesn't affect you? Or is news just something you want to know about? And if that's the case, why is the media only interested in this shooting? Why don't we get the same news coverage of all the children killed in gang violence, all the rapes committed, all the drive-by shootings? Is it mostly because they are minorities? Is that the problem? Why isn't everyone worried about the killings happening all around the world, the tens of thousands of children dying every day?
Homeless kids just dying on the street.
Exactly. Does your interest in other people stop at the United States border? Does your interest stop when these children are not part of your culture? Or are you a sponge and you're just soaking up whatever the news media tells you is relevant and important at the time? These are the things I want you to think about when you're looking at all this media hype that they do around these shootings and all these different kinds of events that happen. When they take an event and try to use it for political gain, which seems to happen, everything that happens means either something good for the president or something bad for the Republicans. They're always playing one off another, and then we're all stuck in the middle, and we're steadily having our rights and our freedoms eroded. Anyway, we're coming up on the last of the show here on the Patrick Riggins Show. It goes by very rapidly, doesn't it? If you want more information about us, you can go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Patrick Riggins Show. You don't have to have an account to get to that. You can see that page without an account. Again, it's facebook.com/Patrick Riggins Show. You can also see us on Twitter and you have the little @ symbol, Patrick Riggins. And you can go to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Patrick Riggins Show. If you need to know how to spell Riggins, it's Riggins. Patrick Riggins Show, and that's all together. You can also email us at patrickriggins@gmail.com, and you can reach us the old-fashioned way with U.S. mail in care of the station WNOX here on Kingston Pike in Knoxville. So join me next Sunday afternoon where once again we'll talk about freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. This is Patrick Riggins. We will see you next Sunday afternoon at 2. Have a great week.
Join us again next week for a solid dose of truth on the Patrick Riggins Show every Sunday from 2 to 3 p.m. Be there.